There is a difference between the words settling and compromise. At least there is in my book. In fact, I kind of think of them as being the exact opposite. Settling means you've absolutely closed the door on a dream. I always wanted to be a pilot, but I guess I'll take this desk job instead. That's settling. Compromising is to leave the door open, even if it's only a crack. I always wanted to be a pilot and fly people around the country, but I guess for now, I'll fly packages for FedEx instead. That's keeping the door open. In the last couple of weeks, we've been exploring the topic of pursuing your spiritual gifts, pursuing God's gifts and God's talents that He's given to you, and using them to make money. A couple of weeks ago, we looked at my friend Mitch, who is doing it part-time through his artwork, and today we are going to look at a friend of mine named Benny, who is doing it full-time through his music, and how he has learned how to compromise.
Once a week, I get to really play.
It's Sunday night, and at a small club called the Rusty Nail, that means it's time for jazz. There is no set list here, and the ensemble of musicians is always rotating. Right now, Thomas is on the drums, and Andy, a professor at the local college, is on the keyboard. And on center stage, playing his sax, is my friend Benny Hill. We'll get back to this scene in just a moment.
It won't bother if I play a couple tunes. All right. I won't make it too loud. It won't be loud.
We actually spent the entire week with Benny, going from one gig to another. On one afternoon, a hotel pays him to play in the lobby, even though there aren't many people in the lobby. On another occasion, a local restaurant has booked him to play in the background as people eat. For more than 20 years now, in performances big and small, this has been exclusively how Benny has made his living.
There came a time, like right after I graduated college, I just made up my mind. Well, I say maybe 2 years after, that I was just going to do music. And it was tough for a while.
Benny lives in the home he inherited from his grandmother. When he was 5, she taught him how to play the piano and read music. Eventually, the drums and the saxophone came along as well.
Let's see. In this cabinet, it's mostly jazz.
Jazz is his first love. You may have recognized the tune Benny's been playing for us in the background. It's called Take 5 by David Brubeck. For decades, this was the #1 best-selling jazz album of all time. But let's play a little game, a little trivia game here. Tell me if you recognize this song. It has also sold millions and millions of copies, all of them in just the last few months. This is Benny's version of Somebody That I Used to Know.
I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't listen to it, and I had no desire to learn it, because usually when I listen to music, it was to grow as a musician, or if I practiced, it was to grow as a musician. But then the economy fell apart in around 2008, and nobody was hiring bands anymore.
And so Benny, armed with just some background tracks, a speaker, and a computer, became a one-man show. Yes, wherever he goes, he does sneak in a jazz tune or two, but there is also the modern-day smash hits.
When I play the pop tunes, people drop money in the cup, so that's always appreciated. So.
The money, of course, is part of the payoff, but the real benefit comes on Sunday night. And so we go back to the Rusty Nail. All those other gigs, all those pop tunes, they are what makes this possible. They are what allows Benny and his friends to play the music that they love.
Pretty much anything goes there. We can actually cut loose and play, you know, the way jazz was intended.
Listen, I know some people are going to look at this story, some purists, and say that Benny has sold out. There is no way a real jazz musician would ever play Britney Spears. But maybe when we take our talents and gifts and put them to such a high standard, when we take the talents and put them on a pedestal, what we've actually done is to turn our talents into a false idol. I want to read something from the great pastor Jim Wallace. This is from his blog. Not being willing to compromise is a savage God. It doesn't just isolate you from other people, it corrupts your soul by making an idol of your taste and preferences. It can make you into a monster because it declares anything less than your vision as empty and unimportant. That's from Jim Wallace. There is, as we said at the top, a difference between the words compromise and settling. You should never settle for the path that you're going to take in life. And you should always, though, be willing to compromise to make sure that all the doors stay open to you. Next week, we're going to continue in our series on pursuing our spiritual gifts by giving you a warning. If you're going to do it, you've got to be aware of chasing the phenomenon. That's next week. I'm Doug Wahl in Wilmington, North Carolina. God bless.